Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Ritchie Bros Inside Edge podcast. This month, we're going to do a deep dive into the transportation market to see what's driving truck prices in 2023. But first, to give us a heads up on our July auction calendar is our auction correspondent, Ian Malinsky.
Hey, everybody. Ian here. We have more than 20,000 items selling in 20-plus auctions in July. With me to talk about these auctions are our auction experts, Kevin Kobus and Warren Wachter. Warren, maybe you could tell us, with this many auctions going on, how do people know which one to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I think firstly, I would just want to recognize our always-on marketplaces like Marketplace E or Ritchie List. In addition to that, we've got quite a few events happening through the month of July in Canada. Going from east to west, we've got a couple of record-breaking auctions in Ontario, as well as a Pan-Atlantic province event and Quebec. Then we've got through the Prairie provinces our Regina and Lethbridge sales, as well as our Saskatoon auction. We also wrap up the balance of our summer on-farm run with about 8 sales in the first couple weeks of July. And then we round things out with an exciting auction out in Chilliwack, British Columbia, including items from our satellite yard in Prince George.
And Kevin, there's only two auctions in the United States, but a lot bigger. We have ones in Fort Worth and Northeast. Can you tell us a little bit more about those ones?
Yeah, so coming up off a hot round of June auctions, and we completed quite a few of those in June. We'll be building up for Fort Worth in July, and that'll be the 18th through the 20th. And that'll be a live in-person auction along with on-site online participation. So the best of both worlds there. That will include equipment from Fort Worth, Houston, Midland, Texas, and Oklahoma City. And then the Northeast Regional event will be July 25th to 27th. That'll be an online-only auction, but feel free to come into the sites prior to the auction to inspect equipment as you feel you need to. That'll have equipment from Northeast Maryland, extending up into North Franklin, Connecticut, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. So it gets a big swath of New England and Mid-Atlantic in the U.S. And then I should say, too, Ian, that we're going to preview a little bit here for August 9th. We have a one-owner liquidation for WB Pipeline in Splendora, Texas. And right now, that is just a one-owner realignment with about 300 assets that should be worth about $30 million. So we're really looking forward to that one. And that will be an on-site and online participation auction as well.
And Warren, are there any key consigners or consignments people should kind of keep a close eye on, maybe take a little bit closer look on?
Yeah, again, I'll start out east. So still obviously collecting equipment for all of these auctions. It's a really busy construction season this year, so we're excited about the opportunity to folks to both sell and buy through July. In Ontario, I would point out we've got 2 unused John Deere 6155M four-wheel drive agricultural tractors, a couple of beautiful units, so take a look at those. And it looks like that auction is shaping up to be a record for the most lots ever sold at a July event in Ontario. In Atlantic Canada, we're featuring equipment from all over the maritime provinces, including the complete dispersal for Infinity Construction and McKay's Paving. Those are going to be selling out of St. John's and Deer Lake in Newfoundland. In Quebec, we've got a really nice package selling from RCI Equipment, and that features a beautiful 2020 Cat 950M wheel loader and a John Deere 470G excavator. The sales in Regina and Lethbridge are actually extra events this year, so just putting a few more dates in the calendar so that our customers have more selling and buying options. In our Saskatoon sale, we're really excited. For the first time ever at Ritchie Bros, we're going to be selling some John Deere X9 1100 combines. We've got 2 of them. They're both very low hours, 2022 model years. And again, first time we're ever seeing these through one of our sales. So very excited about that. Lastly, in BC, I would just point out that we're selling a lot of support equipment for the Trans Mountain Pipeline. This is a great opportunity to get in and buy some of those items like light towers, shipping containers, generators, etc.
Kevin, there's obviously a lot of equipment to choose from. Where should people start their search?
Yeah, so I should also mention, Ian, too, that throughout the month of July and every month, we'll be featuring equipment at our weekly featured auction, which is on Iron Planet as well. And that just kind of segues, where do you start? I would start online, um, and just go to Ritchie Brothers website, www.rbauction.com. Go to our website and just punch in what you're looking for in the search feature. And pretty much anything across the gamut of asphalt paving equipment, mining equipment, construction equipment, just general, excavators, dozers, all the favorite toys, and then trucks, pickup trucks, and then support equipment, generators, light towers, welders, all that kind of fun stuff. But rbauction.com is a great place to start.
Hi, welcome to another Ritchie Brothers Inside Edge podcast. Today we have a couple of transportation experts here to talk with us about transportation trends, pricing, and data. We have Rob Slavin, our in-house senior valuation analyst, and Steve Tam, vice president of ACT Research. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. Pleasure to be here.
So we just released our June market trends report, and we're showing that truck volumes have risen pretty significantly this year in the market. Just wondering, for both of you, why is that?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons. We were on such short supply for so long of used trucks, and we've just had a significant new truck year go through. I think it was 253,000 Class 8 deliveries. And with those new truck deliveries brings trades. And we're seeing a significant number to the point, I think Q1 was our greatest quarter we've ever had, our greatest single quarter, selling over 16,000 transportation pieces. That's tractors, trailers, medium-duty trucks, reefers. We expect this year to be very much strong in the amount of equipment we're going to sell. And it feels a lot like 2020, where we saw a lot of companies defleeting, kind of getting rid of equipment, and then quickly at the end of the year trying to ramp back up to try and jump on the amount of freight that was being held up throughout the year.
Yeah, I think, Rob, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's availability of inventory, but I think one of the nuances that a lot of people in the industry don't fully appreciate, while the traditional new truck buyers have had to extend their trade cycles and age their fleets, so have the traditional used truck buyers. And they don't like that situation. The older a truck gets, the less reliable it can become, and the more expensive it is to maintain, operate, and repair. And so I think you're seeing a refreshing of fleet on the used truck side as well, which is really accounting for the increase in used truck sales.
So, well, Steve, on that actually, what are you seeing for new production and pricing in the retail market, and what kind of impact are these new truck deliveries having on the used market?
Yeah, again, Rob is right on. We finally, I think from an OEM perspective and from a supply chain perspective, are getting to the point where we've made some substantial progress on dealing with the shortages that we've been subjected to over the last couple of years. Not to say that we're out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I can quote you 36 different parts that are still creating challenges for the industry, but we have certainly been able to increase production. On a per day basis, the OEMs are building at something like about 1,400 units per day in the North American market, and that's just on the Class 8 side. And that's up pretty substantially from where we were, even just at the beginning of this year. And so that certainly contributes to the improvement in the situation and kind of the momentum. The other question it was kind of a two-part question that Andrew had there. He was also asking about pricing on the new truck side of the industry. We don't have any empirical data on new truck pricing, but we do have a kind of a price index. And for sure, prices increased again with the new model year at the beginning of the year, and inflation hasn't gone away. It's calmed down a little bit, but the significant price increases that we saw again over the last couple of years as a result of those commodity shortages have stuck with the industry, right? So our proxy for kind of a vanilla fleet spec Class 8 sleeper today is about $170,000. which is not insignificant by any stretch. And of course, that's having a knock-on effect as far as prices are concerned in the used truck market.
I was gonna ask you about overall deliveries. When you look at 2022, I think the number we originally started the year at somewhere around 235, thinking it was going to be much like 2021. We gained on that to, what was it, like 255, 253 units? Doesn't that bring into be it like the number 4 year of Class 8 deliveries? Even with all this chain disruption that we're talking about, we're running up and having one of the best years that we've had in 20 years. Top 5 year.
That's exactly right. People have a hard time keeping those two disparate facts in their heads, right? So the challenge and the reason that we're seeing that is a couple of pretty significant years of under replacement production, right? And so now we're catching up. We've got at this point, we finally dropped through, I think we're probably about 185,000 units in backlog. So that would be orders for trucks that have yet to be built and delivered. Elevated number for sure. We typically see that number closer to, I'm going to say 75,000. So there are still customers who are waiting, I don't know, patiently or perhaps impatiently at this point for their new equipment. But it's it's working its way through the pipeline to them.
Interesting. And there's been a lot of talk about this spot rate rise and fall, which has really been affecting the industry a lot. Is there a correlation, if there is one, over the number of trucks hitting the market?
Well, I think people jumped into the market. Call it 2020, 2021, trying to jump on that $3 spot rate. You had people, that $3 spot rate equated to somewhere around doubling an owner-operator's pay. So somebody was making, let's just say, a good salary of $75,000, they quickly went to $150,000. And they tell 5 of their friends, and 5 of their friends saying, I'd love to be my own boss. And they jump in the market. And, some of that is washing out right now. You're seeing a significant amount of repossessions. People that paid, $70,000 for a 2016 in Q1 of 2022, the most we've ever seen for that age of truck being sold. That was the top of the market. A lot of those guys are feeling it right now because that spot rate has dropped to somewhere around $2 a mile. So what they anticipated making, it's not coming true. So yeah, I think that spot rate has a big impact. I don't think we're going to see it. It did jump up a little bit, which is good to see for everybody. But I don't think we're going to see $3 spot rates anytime too soon.
Yeah. So I guess this is really like not so much a decline, but what they call like a market correction. If everybody was jumping into this, and yeah.
That's a good way to put it. If you look at historical spot rates, we are still north of 2017, 18, 19, 20. But you have to take in consideration everything else that's increased in price. The truck has increased. Getting service, you're talking going to a dealership costing $200 an hour for an hourly rate. Parts gone up 30% over the last 2 years. So everything's gone up. I just saw an article today where they said we've hit an all-time high for transportation costs exceeding $2 a mile. So when people are getting paid $2 a mile today for a spot rate, we're losing money. They're losing money. And I see guys getting offers for $1.50, $1 a mile, just to move freight. And a lot of these guys, they're taking money just to keep the income coming in, and it can't last forever.
Well, on that too, with we sort of touched on this, the influx of the used trucks in the market. It's obviously had a big impact on pricing. Could you maybe talk a little bit about the price changes over the last 18 months?
Well, it's been significant. Like I said, Q1 of last year, 2022, was the greatest quarter that we've ever seen. And it was a buildup, right? It started at the beginning of 2021 and started continually working its way up. And in my 30 years, we've never seen that before. And I think Steve and I have both been doing this about the same amount of time, to the point where we saw older equipment, 6 and 7 year old equipment, rise 150% in value. I mean, that's obscene, right? You had a truck that was selling at our sale for $30,000. A year and a quarter later, it's selling for mid-70s. You don't see that. And we're talking the same mileage, that same 600,000 mile truck, it went up that much. We saw used trucks selling for more than what new trucks were going for in the marketplace. 2 years old, 1 year old. It was just an incredible. And what we're seeing today, if you were to compare the pricing that we were seeing in Q1, you've seen about a 60% drop on an 8-year-old truck today from where it was. And we're going to continue to see that number drop. I'm hoping that the bulk of the drop is stopped, but you'll see continued depreciation. So I'm hoping that we've hit kind of a landing pad and saying, all right, it's going to be a little bit more smooth sailing. We have a more consistent price in the market. We still get peaks of really phenomenal pricing. And the market that was most hit was the market that took off the most, which was sleeper market. So we're seeing that being hit the worst right now.
Question for you, Steve. We touched on with the spot rates, people were jumping into the business and driving trucks everywhere and trying to, make a go of it, which is now obviously kind of correcting itself. But for years, we've heard about driver shortage. So I'm just curious, with more trucks entering the used market, is there still a driver shortage, or is that kind of balanced out with this whole spot rate thing?
Yeah, very, very interesting question. So I guess I'll answer it from a couple of perspectives. If you look at what's happening in the employment picture among the for-hire carriers, for example, turnover rates have definitely come down, but they're still at 75%. So, in really tight times, that's, 100% or even more than 100%. So what that means doesn't mean that you have changing out all of your drivers once a year. It means that you're changing out maybe 20% of your drivers 5 times a year. So now we're only doing that, 4 or maybe 3.5. So you still have the churn at the carriers, despite the fact that things have tightened up. So it is still a challenge for folks to hire. If you go out and look, every single one of those carriers, those for-hire carriers, has open jobs in their companies. Some of them have hundreds, maybe even 1,000 open jobs in their companies that they're trying to fill. So it's a better situation, but it certainly hasn't gone away. And the other thing is this is one of those interesting situations where, okay, so the velocity, the churn is slowing down, and so you're starting to see the drivers' schools closing down, right? So especially some of the Johnny-come-latelys, or the folks that play in the market when it's hot and leave when it's not, and that's of course setting up a pinch point for when the market turns around, right? We're gonna be in the same situation. So the driver shortage, I think, is always going to be with us. One other comment or one other factoid there is from a truck driving job situation. It's just been in the last month or so that we've actually seen job creation slowing down. Not that it's contracting. We're just adding fewer jobs on a month in, month out basis. Interestingly enough, local truck driving jobs still increasing in number. So as kind of freight distribution patterns are changing and companies are adopting their models to get their drivers home more frequently or more regularly, certainly a dynamic that we see in play in the market right now.
And just curious, with the high turnover, and maybe I don't know if you know the answer to this, but is it are drivers leaving the industry, or are they jumping from company to company?
Yeah, I think some of both. I don't know the proportions. I would my suspicion is you've got more drivers leaving the industry now than you typically do. But, they're always, as Rob alluded to, right? If you're making $2 a mile and it costs you $2 a mile, you're always looking for another penny a mile. Or you're always looking for another, 100 miles or 500 miles or whatever the case may be. So the grass is certainly always greener.
So one of the things I was going to bring up is the amount of freight that's in the market today. When you look at this year versus previous years, even 2021, 2022, the reason rates were so well is because there was a shortage. There was an excess amount of freight out there to be shipped. And today, the amount of freight that's in there, if there was the amount of freight today or in 2021, 22, today, we wouldn't see the low spot rates that we're having right now. So I would almost say you could say it two ways. We have a shortage of freight or an oversupply of drivers for the amount of freight that's out there. And that's one of the things that I'm looking at right now, or that I see in the market. And I hear a lot about, when I talk to the guys out here and what they're saying right now is, I've got drivers, I just need freight.
The crazy thing about that is I talk with folks all the time and they can't find trucks to ship the freight that they do have. So your head hurts no matter which direction you're looking.
I got a yard full of trucks right now. I just don't have drivers, so find me some drivers and we'll satisfy that need.
Well, just sort of shifting gears, pun intended here. I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about CARB. There's been a lot of talk about this. For people that don't know, it's the the California Air Resource Board has brought in regulations that are meant to curb emissions. They want trucks of a certain age basically out of the market. They won't register them. So we're just wondering, maybe you could talk a little bit. Is the industry reacting to it yet, and how?
Yeah, so I'd have to say, in short, yes. The provision that you're talking about in terms of kind of raising the bar on how old of a truck carrier can have an operation is focused predominantly at the ports and is pretty well at this point implemented. You're spot on. That no new operating authority is being granted within the ports for any truck that's older than a 2010 emissions year. So they've done a pretty decent job of cleaning up out there. The real challenge that the industry is facing today from CARB is on an emissions mandate that they've got that goes into effect the beginning of 2024 that goes after tailpipe emissions on new trucks. So any truck basically that's built after that deadline. And the challenge is that the standard is so stringent. First off, the manufacturers are struggling being able to produce trucks that can meet that standard. If they are able to do it, and I think they will be able to, they're going to come with a significantly higher price tag that the truckers are not going to like and not going to want to adopt. We're forecasting a very small, what we call a pre-buy. So imagine the fleets kind of compressing their trade cycle and bringing down their average fleet age so that they can kind of hit the pause button on new purchases as they kind of adapt to what this new operating environment looks like. The reason that it's only small is because you've just got a handful of states, including California and some others, who are sympathetic to the emissions situation in California that will follow or that will adopt that standard, starting with the January 24 deadline. There's another group that are going to actually wait a year and do it in January of 25. But then, of course, we've also got a federal mandate coming at us in 27. So lots of different strategies on how to roll with the punches, so to speak, that will be, I think, minimally disruptive to the industry to start out with, but with increasing impact as we move toward a harmonized standard in 27.
3 years of row of pre-buys, Steve. Are we gonna see 3 years of row of pre-buys?
So we'll see in 23 ahead of the California mandate in 24. And then maybe when you get to late 25 on a federal basis, it'll start. But 26 is going to be the significant year for pre-buy ahead of that 07 mandate. Yeah, or 27 mandate. Yeah.
So it's the 07 mandate. So we'll see a large pre-buy, and it'll probably be something like 06 was for us, 2006.
We're forecasting bigger than 06. Yeah. Yeah.
Is CARB having any impact yet on companies as far as selling? Are they trying to actively get rid of these trucks yet, or are they kind of just trying to get as much out of them as they can?
No. Yeah. The mandates that are in play right now that have not yet been implemented are they're not retroactive. They go after new equipment only. So that we're still trying to figure out what the strategies are going to be. Yeah. So it's going to be, it will be interesting because there are actually a couple other mandates. They've got what they call the Advanced Clean Truck legislation, which is going to dictate the number or the percentage of electric or alternative fuel or zero emissions trucks that need to be sold in the state. But then they also have a clean fleet piece of legislation that's going to go after operations in the state. And then on the heels of all that, or in the middle of all that, we actually now have a lawsuit. We got 19 states that are suing the EPA because the EPA is the one who has given CARB the ability to have more stringent standards, and the states are saying the EPA doesn't have the authority to do that. So I don't believe the states will prevail. The authority has been tested before, and it's been upheld. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, gosh, maybe the industry that's really being impacted is the legal industry.
But Rob, you haven't really seen much then in way of people with, we got to get these older ones out of here.
So we do see customers knowing they have to get rid of equipment, and they are selling. California is probably the biggest one that does that, where you'll see quite a few. And if they're significantly old, they'll go to other states and continue on in another life. Go from a long haul application to a regional haul, and then go to a city delivery. It's just a chain of events, and it's from 550,000 miles, we're going to move that, and it goes to a regional haul, and then it gets up to 800,000 miles, and it's like, we're going to drive around the city and, make deliveries that way. So we see it, and we're cognizant about it when we're bringing in equipment, and even shipping equipment from other states to be sold into California. We're very, we realize that as well. So we want to make sure we can sell something that's being able to be used in that state.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, this has been super interesting, guys. I really thank you for your time and all your insights into the trucks and transport world and prices. And so appreciate you and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome, Andrew. Thanks.